My next guest has some thoughts on this. Please welcome to the show, Dan Geltrude, America's accountant. Thank you very much for being on the show, Dan. Well, where do we go from here? I mean, they're too big to ignore, but they're too naughty to be cozying up to. I mean, it puts us in a difficult spot.
Well, when we're talking about Russia and China, Scott, we are talking about two completely different countries when it comes to their economic power, right? I mean, Russia is really nothing compared to China. Not that we want to isolate Russia. I mean, outside of the circumstances that we're dealing with right now with Ukraine, but China is a different matter. There is literally no getting around China economically anywhere around the globe. So you have to be able to sit at the table with the Chinese. At the same time, obviously, there's a lot of bad behavior happening in and around China that, quite frankly, what are we supposed to do about it? Economically, we can't sanction them. We're certainly not going to go to war. So I think the best that we can do is try to incentivize them economically to play nice. Other than that, I don't think we have a lot of choices in how to deal with them.
Well, I mean, we've tried. I think Trump tried with the tariffs, and for all that matter, I mean, you can argue whether they worked or they didn't work, but that was probably the first person. I mean, look, their imports, simply put, they tax our cars going in at 25%. We tax their cars coming in here at 2.5%. And for some reason, we just kind of let that keep going on like it's okay and like it's fair. And they also, we open up a business over there, they get to own our intellectual property. I mean, there's so many things that happen to the tune of, say, $500 billion a year easily when it comes to the theft of intellectual property. I mean, besides incentivizing, I know you asked me the question, I'm answering it kind of in a long and involved way, but I'm concerned that this doesn't really end. And if it doesn't really end and we start to have a little bit of a cold China relationship, we're pretty intertwined with them, aren't we?
We're very intertwined with them. They're intertwined all around the world. I mean, China has their tentacles in everyone's economies because of the way they approach the world. And I would tell you this, there's a lot of people talking about, well, China is siding with Russia. And I'm going to tell you this. China is siding with no one except China. If they're aligning themselves with Russia over Ukraine, and it's still a little gray whether they're truly doing that, it's only because they see it as something advantageous to China. I don't think they're buddying up to them because they like Russia. I think that they find it as, if this is a thorn in the side of the United States and the West, well, that's something that could play out quite well for us. But again, I go back to, if you really want to bring China to the table, you have to figure out how to deal with them economically. We are not going to go to war with China militarily, and I want to emphasize militarily, but don't kid yourself that we're not in an economic war with them, and I don't see that going away anytime soon. Scott.
Well, and my problem with that is, Dan, and I agree with you wholeheartedly, but America is too much of a what have you done for me lately, right? We need instant gratification here in this country. They have a 10,000-year plan they write books about, right? And so the difference is that I don't know if we have the stomach for a war, an economic war, because we have too many corporations that went over there because they could put stuff together cheaply. Now, if that can't be the case, what are they going to do next? I mean, that's a problem.
Well, part of the challenge that we have is the way our country is structured, right? We're a democratic republic, which means conceivably every 4 years you have a new president and a new administration, and they change policy. China, President Xi isn't going anywhere. So whatever policies he's putting in place are going to stay in place for his lifetime. So, the things that Trump was trying to do, even if they were effective, well, a new administration comes in and they're out the window. So you're right in saying our approach is short term, but that's somewhat built into our system because in many ways our government is built to be short term.
Yeah, it is, but I think that short-termism has gotten even shorter over, the last, 25 or 30 years. I'll just give you a quick, when I played at University of Colorado, we went 1-10 my freshman year. And we lost a lot of those 10 games by less than 3 points. And the coach back then, he got a 5-year extension after a 1-10 year. and in 5 years he won the national championship. Bill McCartney did. Now, that would never in a million years happen again today, because there's no way that the boosters would handle that, and people are expect to win the national championship the next year. And I think that's gotten, that's from 1980 to 2020. I think that's changed the landscape, especially when it comes to running your company.
Well, you're exactly right. But if we look at the difference from the point in time that you're referencing to now, the big change is social media. Everything is so instantaneous, Scott.
That's a great point.
And bad news travels pretty darn fast. So I think we have to look at this and say, yeah, a 1-in-10 season with the social media sharks
You're right.
surrounding that coach, it would never happen again. So
I have to call you uncle. That
great.
was a great one. That is great, because they say about social media, bad news travels 3.5 times around the world before good news gets out of bed, right? So that's exactly right. And the social media has changed everything. And that Elon Musk story with Twitter is a whole nother thing, and maybe we'll cover that the next time you're on. But I really appreciate you being on. That's Dan Geltrude coming to us from sunny New Jersey, he says. I really appreciate your contents.